What is up, guys, and welcome back to another AFK Journey video for you guys today. And today I'm going to be talking about a must-have, must-build hero that you should be putting on pretty much all of your teams, especially against bosses. He is known none other than Eddie of the Wilder faction, and he is one of the strongest damage dealers in the game, especially for single target, because he actually has a poison built into his ultimate, which does a lot of DOT or damage over time damage. He also has a triple shot, which does a ton of damage that scales with his poison, and he also will prioritize poison damage and just basically poison. He's also very powerful after you get your exclusive equipment because you'll actually execute poison targets, but even without this in the early game, he's a very strong unit because of his single target damage potential. A lot of people don't actually know that he's very strong unless you've been playing the game for a long time in the beta, but he is by far the best single target damage dealer in the game, and he's just really good in PvE, especially when you're killing bosses. Now, of course, you have other units like Bala and like other rogues that you might want to use in place of him when you're playing PvP to actually assassinate enemies, but for just killing the front line, killing the boss, just mowing down units in the front, Eddie is going to be the most powerful unit. He's a marksman, so you definitely want to gear the marksman class out as soon as you can and use him. You can pretty much use him as the single DPS in your team, and he will be able to do a ton of damage to Dream Realm. Even in PvP against non-assassin teams, he's very strong. Just to showcase how strong he can actually be, I'll show him in a pretty common comp here. We're using the 3 and 2 faction bonus. So basically what we're going to be doing is we have 2 frontline units, right? We have a healer, and then we also have Leica, who's also a very strong free-to-play unit as well because of her defense break and also because she can buff allies. And then we also have Eddie here as our main damage dealer. Now, this team is pretty solid as a starter team, right? Hewan is very good at healing, right? We have Granny, Danny, who is hard to get, who's very powerful because she can actually heal and also tank a ton of damage. And we also have Kruger, who can also penetrate defense. Pretty standard team. You guys are going to see in the damage charts how strong Eddie can actually be when you actually protect him and use him in the right team comp. He can melt through bosses very quickly, as you'll see, and you're going to see that just his raw damage output is pretty much unmatched compared to other heroes. You're going to see, basically, as long as you have a front line, he's just going to be mowing down enemies, and he scales very well with buffing allies because his auto attacks hit very hard. So if you actually have teammates to actually break the defense of the boss, which we're doing here, you can see that his damage output can be insane. Even though most of his damage is magic, just having buffing units such as Leica to actually buff his attack speed is going to be a big boost for your team here. And you can see this boss is getting chopped down pretty quickly. I don't know if I'll actually kill it because I'm not actually that strong on this account, on this beta account yet. But you're going to see after the fight ends from the damage meters how much damage Eddie does compared to another DPS unit such as like Leica, who's on his right. And well, after playing this game for a while, I've kind of fallen in love with the graphics. It's pretty cool. It's like animated, but like still 3D. So I'm pretty excited for the game's official release, which should be next year, I believe. And we did time out on the boss, but I just wanted to show you guys the damage charts here. So if you actually look, you're going to see it's not even close. He did more damage than my entire team combined here, which is insane. So you can kind of see why Eddie's damage is super strong for bosses, right? Leica, who's also classified as a sub DPS, did a quarter of his damage. Keep in mind they're both marksmen, so they have the same gear. They're also at the same tier of rarity, so nothing like that is boosting his strength. And you can also see Kruger here, which is another damage dealer slash bruiser. It did not even do half of his damage, so you can kind of see how Eddie is very powerful. So we'll actually test this boss again, but we'll use Bala here instead of Kruger because I don't think we need another tank. Bala is an S tier unit or hero in AFK Journey because she can assassinate backline units, and a lot of people still use her in PvE, but I want to show you, even if you have this shiny Bala that you got lucky and pulled for, why Eddie can be super powerful and is honestly a lot better than her in just normal content where you're not really needing to assassinate people. So you're going to see pretty much the same thing. You're going to see that Vala and Eddie here are just going to be damaging the boss over and over, and when this fight ends, you're going to see from the charts how big the disparity can be between these two units, even though Bala is considered to be overall in PvP a stronger unit. Doesn't really matter because Eddie's just a boss and he's amazing at what he does at killing bosses here. Now, of course, because we did switch out Kruger for Bala, we did lose a faction bonus. That's not the point of the video. I just want to show you guys why Eddie is so freaking strong and why you guys pretty much need to have him and always need to be using him in pretty much all these boss area contents where you're just smacking a boss down because he's so good. He's also very good in battle drills, also good in Arcane Labyrinth. He's just very, very strong. I cannot just overstate how strong he is because he will carry you throughout the entirety of the game. And you're going to see the overall damage on this run's lower, but not the point. It's mostly because we lost the faction bonus. But just going to be hitting this boss over and over. And you're going to see how much damage Eddie can actually put out. And this run should be ending here. And you're going to see it was pretty close. We're like 4% off, 5% off. But now you're going to see why he is so strong here. So Bala actually did less damage than Kruger. Eddie still did almost triple her damage. So you guys kind of get what I'm saying. Eddie is just super broken. You definitely need to have him built. Don't know how many times I have to say this, but he's just so freaking powerful. You definitely want to make sure you have him. Now, of course, you can summon for him, right? If you're pulling on the all hero recruitment banners. Just make sure he's in your wish list so you actually get him here. You want to make sure he's in the Mauler faction wish list. Pair him with either Kruger, who's very good, Smokey, who's extremely powerful if you pair them together, or even Brutus, who's very good as well. And honestly, you're going to be good to go. You'll probably get a lot of copies of him, and you definitely want to make sure you use him ASAP. Now, say you actually need more copies to actually get his exclusive equipment, or upgrade him, or you just didn't pull him at all. You can always pull him from either the Jolly Fair if you have these currencies. You can also pull him when he rotates in throughout the arena store and also just other shops in general. But overall, he should be pretty easy to get. If you ever see him available in one of these stores, you definitely want to get him because he is super strong. And yeah, these rotate pretty often, so you definitely want to check back and make sure you get him. Shouldn't be too hard to get though. The hardest thing about using Eddie is getting over the fact that he's a coyote and you're using him. A lot of people don't really like to use the Wilder faction in this game because they, or not the Wilder, the Mauler faction in this game because they're just animals. And I like to personally use these like Lightborn, like Bala looks, or Lightbearer. Bala looks pretty cool, and the other units as well. But just use Eddie, guys. You don't even need to worry about the factions too much. Pair him with whatever frontline, whatever healer you have, and he's very strong. If you guys are wondering why I'm back in Dream Realm, don't worry, I'm not going to show you guys in the battle. I'm just going to show you guys a very easy team comp to build around him. So like I said, you want a healer. If you guys have no healers, right, you start with one actually. If you actually use, I believe her name is Faye. Yep, you can use Faye with him. If you also want to use a unit to buff his DPS with attack speed, Leica, who's also very easy to get and purchasable from the store, is very strong as well. Then after that, you only really need a frontline, right? So if you don't have a good frontline, you can always use Valen. He's very good in the early game. And after that, you can just pretty much use whatever tank that you have at your disposal. For me, I use Granny Danny, of course, because she's the best one I have. If you don't have her, there's a ton of other options you can use. I think a good one is also Lucius. He's pretty strong as well if you want to use him because he is very tanky and has healing. So it's really up to you. So yeah, make sure you guys start using your Eddie, guys. He's so strong. You can even use him in PvP. You can never go wrong with him if you just protect him. And he is definitely a must build, must used unit in pretty much almost every area of content. So yeah, definitely give him a try and kind of, I wouldn't say abuse him until he gets nerfed again, but you definitely want to use him until they figure out that he's just way too strong, because honestly, currently, he's just way too strong.